Part of my passion of becoming a therapist and then specifically tailoring it towards the LGBTQ plus community, the veteran community, is mainly, I judge, that our stories are rooted in a history of trauma, whether it be emotional abuse, physical abuse, even sexual abuse. I truly believe that the only way we can meet someone else is that we know ourselves. I am Michael, lead therapist here at Safe Harbor Counseling. I am a veteran, a husband, a father, a therapist here at Safe Harbor Counseling of Missouri, and I also identify as ace or asexual. A little pin right there. So I'd like to welcome you to the first Safe Harbor Counseling of Missouri live Q&A. So to begin, I'd like to share some of the common mental health challenges and misconceptions. And how am I going to share? Again, I'm going to share it from the I statement. Back in 2004, I had completed my service, left the Army. The military took 16 weeks to turn me into a soldier. Essentially conditioned me through, I judge now, it's a trauma conditioning. Forgo who I am and become a unit with other soldiers. And in the process of 3 days, they took away my uniform, they took away my rank, they took away my job. They dusted their hands, said, "You're done. Good luck out there." And that was it. So, as they had let me go, needless to say, I'm a veteran both of pre and post 9/11. I went to the Army primarily to escape the personal trauma I experienced growing up, verbal, physical, sexual abuse. And I was using the Army as a vehicle to run away. Well, as maybe some of you might know, that as you can hide, deny, and repress, but they don't go away. Those things in the past that's hurt you, those things in the past that you didn't learn or didn't get taught, they don't just automatically get better as soon as you grow up. So when I came out of the Army, I was pretty hurt. I was pretty sick, not just dealing with the trauma from the military and the things that I experienced there, but from my childhood. And part of that trauma is actually rooted, I wouldn't find out until much later, in my sexual identity. I was a graduate student nearing the end of my graduate work to become a therapist, and I took a course that explored sexual and gender identities, and we really had to dig into the exploration of our own identity. Full transparency, I'm 45, kid growing up in the 80s, early 90s, and so the proliferation of information of different sexual identities or gender identities, they just weren't there, especially not in South Texas. You were one or the other. If you didn't fit in those boxes, well, you're just weird. And I'd always gotten that sort of experience and feedback that, I was just the other. A lot of the trauma and abuse came from that. But I didn't realize that my otherness had a name, and that name was identify my sexuality as asexual. The other boys in the locker room, they'd break their necks drooling over their preferred sexual object. I didn't get it. And yet I had the pressure and desire to want to fit in. And so, though I adopted an identity of normal, I didn't have those same desires. I didn't have that same reaction, the objectifying, the experience. I got that out of cars. I got that from really perseverating on the interest and flavor of the month. So another little bit of self-disclosure here. I'm also a member of the neurological diverse, and that's a fancy way of saying that I am a person who is on the autism spectrum, which makes me a really good therapist, by the way. We'll get to more of that at a later Q&A. But as I was taking this course in graduate school, I was able to explore this part of my identity. I found a lot of questions answered, and I found a lot of comfort in finally finding another piece of me. And so some of the common mental health challenges and misconceptions that people have, that I certainly had, is that there's something wrong with me because I'm not normal. And then that's reinforced by the behavior of those around you in your environment. It could be behavior of the people that raised you, or maybe significant others, the emotional abuse, the criticism, the trauma. Now, humans can do one of two things. They can internalize that, taking blame and turning it into shame. Oh, there must be something wrong with me. And you start internalizing and agreeing with the unhealthy critique, criticism, verbal abuse, and that becomes this story. I'm no good. I'm worthless. Many of you may know that story, but that's a misconception. That's a learned response, a response that was definitely helpful at the time because it alleviated the pain that trauma caused. So part of what therapy is designed, and part of the therapy that I offer, is a safe space and support, reminding you, I'm not here to fix you. You're not broken. You're hurt. You didn't get needs met. But there's nothing to fix. You're human. Human who has learned skills in order to survive. But if you're anything like me, surviving sucks. It's painful. And I got to a place in my life before I started doing my work that, some days I thought maybe dying was better than just surviving. So I get it. And that's kind of why I became a therapist, and also the passion that I bring and the space that I want to hold for my community. Now, I am feeling fear because this is the first time I have spoken live about my own sexual identity, and that's okay. That fear is welcome. I feel vulnerable sharing this with you, and yet it is that vulnerability that allows me to connect, hopefully, with you. And it's that vulnerability and that realness that I bring. And it's my hope that with that vulnerability, that honesty, first I had to be honest with myself, and then that honesty that I could bring into session, the honesty that I bring to you here, that I invite you, if you're struggling, if you've got those words and those scripts and those hurtful messages you learned long ago continuing to beat you down and run through your head, I invite you, find help. Now, I'm not going to presume that I'm the only source of help. I'm going to invite you to come find help with me. In fact, this is the whole idea of this live stream, is that I'd like to invite you all to become clients at Safe Harbor Counseling, to join me in doing your work. But maybe I don't work for you. That's okay. I want to invite you into a larger world, moving from surviving to thriving, moving into your power, a power that you've always had, but has maybe buried underneath a long history of physical, emotional, sexual abuse, trauma. So, strategies for finding support and building resistance. Well, if you're here, well, that's one strategy. You're open to hear new information. Another strategy I like to give out is, well, essentially, what are emotions? I did a full webinar on what are emotions. If you're anything like most of my clients, even myself, as I started my work, I didn't know what emotions were, their purpose or their function. I just knew they hurt. They sucked. They seemed to get in the way. These intense emotions also resulted in behaviors that wasn't conducive. Didn't work out for me, didn't work out for anybody. So part of the strategies for finding support and building resistance is insight and understanding. Just real quick, while we're talking about emotions, emotions are really simple. Their purpose are that they are signals from our body that indicate needs. I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm sad. Or they indicate needs met. I'm full, I'm satisfied, I'm happy, I'm at peace, I'm content. Now that's just a little snippet here because there's so much more of the work. Again, I do have resources. I, in fact, did a whole webinar, it's up on YouTube, about what are emotions. But building that resilience, I think you don't have to build the resilience. If you're a part of this LGBTQ plus community with me, I say, and I judge, that you have resilience in spades. That this world has hammered and hammered and hammered, and yet you're still here. So first off, I want to say I see people of courage, of strength. It took a lot of strength just to survive in this bigoted, racist, fascist culture that if you colored outside the lines or weren't a part of the binary, then you were othered. There's no need for you to build that resilience. There is only the need for you to recognize that strength and own it. That's your strength. Another opportunity to learn and grow. Again, if you haven't found that strength within you, I invite you. Seek support. And if you can't find it, seek it. Visit the website, safeharborforme.com. Get a 15-minute free consultation. See if it's something that you'd like to explore further. It's an invitation. I don't give advice. I'm the expert in this room only for me. And I believe you know you best. And I believe that every human knows what truth is for them. So if you've got your head nodding up and down while I'm talking, then I encourage and support you to continue. Keep going. You're stronger than you can ever imagine. How therapy can be tailored to meet the needs of the LGBTQ plus individual. Well, it's my hope that as I have spoken, as I've shared a bit about myself, a bit about what therapy is and emotions, and maybe I've even highlighted and you recognized a bit about you. This is exactly how I tailor sessions. Number one, I recognize and not assume that I know anything about your life or the pains that you've been through. I can touch my pain and my fear, my anger, my sadness, and meet with you. I also recognize I'm not the expert. I'm a service provider. I provide a safe space for you. And I'm directed, client-centered, client-directed. I'm directed by your desire. What did you come to get today? What did you come to get from this live Q&A? And eventually, what did you come to get from therapy? What does a life worth living look like? You let me know that, then I can partner and support you in working towards those goals. I want to share that this has been a great experience. I know that this video will be after the live session be up. I encourage you, as you view this video, that if you have any other questions or any other thoughts, if this has inspired you to seek support, I'd be happy to meet with you. If you know somebody that could also maybe use this conversation in their life, I encourage you to share it with them. There's also some additional resources. I create content for mental health and those that are doing their work every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on this Harbor Lights. It's our Safe Harbor for Me blog site. The link is on our Facebook page. I post on Facebook, I post on LinkedIn, I post on Instagram. And I'm looking for your feedback. What more would you like to know? What would further live Q&A sessions look like? What would you like to know? What did you come to get? How can I serve you? Again, my name is Michael Mason, lead therapist at Safe Harbor Counseling of Missouri. Thank you for taking this time with me. We'll see you next time.